Reading now from the Gospel of Jesus Christ according to John, chapter 1, verses 43 to 51. And if you'd like to read along in your pew Bibles, you will find this passage on page 125 in the New Testament. Jesus calls Philip and Nathanael. The next day, Jesus decided to go to Galilee. He found Philip and he said to him, "Come with me." Philip was from Bethsaida, the town where Andrew and Peter lived. Philip found Nathanael and told him, "We have found the one whom Moses wrote about in the book of the law, and whom the prophets also wrote about. He is Jesus, son of Joseph, from Nazareth." "Can anything good come from Nazareth?" Nathanael asked. "Come and see," answered Philip. When Jesus saw Nathanael coming to him, he said about him, "Here is a real Israelite. There's nothing false in him." Nathanael asked him, "How do you know me?" Jesus answered, "I saw you when you were under the fig tree before Philip called you." "Teacher," answered Nathanael, "you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." Jesus said, "Do you believe just because I told you I saw you when you were under the fig tree? You will see much greater things than this." And he said to them, "I am telling you the truth. You will see heaven open and God's angels going up and down on the Son of Man." Today I'm continuing a series of messages for Epiphany, which I've called The Work of Christmas. The first Sunday I described that work as being to find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to make peace among brothers and sisters, to make music in someone's heart. I demonstrated the work of Christmas with a story about Captain Shaw of the Salvation Army and the compassion he showed 3 leprous prisoners he had met in India. Last Sunday, I called to mind Charles Dickens and his book, A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, he wrote. It was the season of light, it was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. I drew attention to the fact that some people, either because of circumstance or choices made, or simply because of the giftedness of life, seem to have everything going for them. Others, because of different circumstances or different choices, or simply because of the tragedy of life, know something quite different. They know the season of darkness. And I drew attention to the fact that our calling as Christians is to help people transform those seasons of darkness into seasons of light. That is the work of Christmas to which we are all called. The work to which God calls us as followers of Christ. The same work to which God called Samuel long ago. The same work to which Jesus called Nathanael and Philip, Andrew and John and Peter. So many people in every age live in dark places, brought on by sin and sorrow, hurt and hopelessness, entanglement and estrangement, suffering and setbacks. And they long for a place where the light will overcome the shadows, will chase those shadows away. They long for light. In my last message, I said that light comes more often than not through love. But it isn't just my thinking that has shaped these messages. It's the thinking of many, many others. Teilhard de Chardin wrote, and I've used this quote before, "The day will come when after harnessing space, the winds, the tides, and gravitation, we shall harness for God the energies of love. And on that day, for the second time in the history of the world, we will have discovered fire." Martin Luther King Jr. wrote, "Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love." William Wordsworth, he wrote this, "The best portion of a good man's life is little, nameless, unremembered acts of kindness and love." Dr. Carl Menninger, "Love cures people, both the one who gives it and the one who receives it." And finally, words by Thornton Wilder, "There is a land of the living and a land of the dead, and the bridge between them is love." Think of it. Fire, greatness, the best portion of life, the cure, the bridge from death to life. They're all found in the mysteries and the equations of love. Viktor Frankl was a Viennese Jew who, as a psychiatrist following World War II, wrote a masterpiece called Man's Search for Meaning. Frankl was held captive by the Germans for more than 3 years during the war. He was moved from one concentration camp to another, even spending several months at Auschwitz. Dr. Frankl said that he learned early on that one way to survive was to shave every morning, no matter how sick you were. Even if you had to use a piece of broken glass as a mirror. For every morning, as the prisoners stood for review, the sickly ones who would not be able to work that day were sent directly to the gas chambers. If you were shaven and your face looked ruddier for it, your chances of escaping death were that much better, at least for that day. Their bodies wasted away on the daily fare of 10.5 ounces of bread and 1 3/4 pints of thin gruel. They slept on bare board tiers, 7 feet wide, with 9 men to a tier. 3 shrill whistles awoke them for work at 3 a.m. One morning, as they marched out to lay railway ties in the frozen ground miles from the camp, the accompanying guards kept shouting and driving them with the butts of their rifles. Anyone with sore feet supported himself on his neighbor's arm. The man behind Frankel, hiding his mouth behind his upturned collar, whispered, "If our wives could see us now. I do hope they're better off in their camps and don't know what is happening to us." Frankel wrote of that experience and conversation. That brought thoughts of my wife to mind. And as we stumbled on for miles, slipping on icy spots, supporting each other time and time and time again, dragging one another up and onward, nothing was said. But we both knew each of us was thinking of his wife. Occasionally, I looked at the sky where the stars were fading and the pink light of the morning was beginning to spread behind a dark bank of clouds. But my mind clung to my wife's image, imagining it with an uncanny acuteness. I heard her answering me, saw her smile, her frank and encouraging look. A thought transfixed me. For the first time in my life, I saw the truth as it is set into song by so many poets, proclaimed as the final wisdom by so many thinkers. The truth that love is the ultimate and highest goal to which humanity can aspire. Then I grasped the meaning of the greatest secret that human poetry and human thought and belief have to impart. The salvation of humanity is through love and in love. Hear those few words again. The greatest secret that human poetry and human thought and belief have to impart. The salvation of humanity is through love and in love. Jesus shows us this love in the life he led. The word that God spoke in and through Jesus was the universal language of the heart. 3 simple, cannot live without, everything words. I love you. This is my word, God says. I love you. Doesn't get simpler or more magnificent than that. I love you. Now, Sunday by Sunday, we meet as people of faith. And hopefully we embrace this incredible, almost unbelievable truth. The question is, of course, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do with it? What difference is it going to make for us? And are we different, truly different, because of it? Paul wrote, the only thing that counts is faith expressing itself through love. It's the only thing that counts, according to Paul. In the seasons of darkness that many know, the season of light, more often than not, comes through those who live by faith in Christ. Comes through us. The season of light comes on the wings of faith, expressing itself through love. Now, Jesus said, we do not live by bread alone. That doesn't mean we don't need bread to sustain us. The thousands upon thousands who die of starvation every year, they're a stark reminder of that. But it means that we need also the bread of human kindness. We need the bread that those who live by faith can give. And that is love. For more often than not, the bread of love that sustains the spirit is accompanied by the bread that sustains the body. Who was it that said, if your heart is moved, then your hands will move in the direction of your heart? Always. Isn't that true? Now, what incredible needs there are in the world. Many of those people who have such needs are even here today. Maybe they're sitting beside you. Maybe they're sitting in front of you or behind you. Maybe you're one of them. And they've come here today because their hearts are heavy and they need a lift. Because their spirits are weary and they need to be refreshed. Because they long for the peace and the assurance that God gives us. The assurance that God cares. That others care. And that help and healing and hope can be found here in this place. And like Mr. Justice, I call him, with all his needs, surely we all need to know and experience, above all, that somebody cares. If ever there was a time that needed faith expressing itself through love, now is the time. If ever there was a place that needed faith expressing itself through love, this is the place. There are countless people here today who are living in seasons of darkness and long to see the light. I came across this Irish blessing the other day that I'd like to share with you. May the blessing of the light be on you. Light without and light within. May the blessed sunlight shine upon you and warm your heart till it glows like a great fire, and strangers may warm themselves as well as friends. And may the light shine out of the eyes of you like a candle set in the window of a house, bidding the wanderer to come in out of the storm. And now may the Lord bless you and bless you kindly. And so I challenge you today, because the lives of so many need it. Be that someone. I challenge you today because the lives of so many could be lost without it. Translate that faith of yours into something bright and beautiful, into something warm and welcoming, till your heart, warmed by God's blessed light, glows like a great fire where both strangers and friends may warm themselves. I challenge you today, because there are so many weary wanderers, because there are so many storms, to let your faith, expressing itself through love, become as a candle set in the window of a house, bidding the wanderer to come in out of the storm. I challenge you today to be the someone through whom the light shines, to be the someone through whom messages of loving kindness are heard, to be the someone through whom a helping hand is given, to be the someone through whom the grace of God is shared. To be the someone who becomes an answer to another person's prayer. We're just about to sing a hymn. And in this hymn, the question is asked, who will bear my light to them? Whom shall I send? Let your answer be, and this is my challenge to you, say aloud, here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, if you lead me, and I will hold your people in my heart. So don't wait to be that someone. Be that someone today. Now's the time. This is the place. Now's the time. This is the place to do the work of Christmas.